We heard the ring. Baldy, what is going on? Look at you, almost in a full suit for
Ooh.
us.
Yeah, I just had to do some stuff with the Jets today, so I'm just pulling in. So I don't have to write an epitaph or anything like that, but it's close to that up there in New York right now.
Baldy, we were just talking about Russell Wilson and how he, over the past 8 games, only passed him for 171 yards per game. In that span, he only has one 200-yard passing game. For 5 straight games, we saw it work for the Broncos, be able to win 5 straight. Obviously not this week. Is it sustainable for the rest of the season to only ask for 171 passing yards per game? Or at some point, for the Broncos to make a playoff push, do they need more from Russ?
Well, no, I don't. I mean, it's sustainable, especially with with the opponents you have coming up. But I just thought they were too much bombs away last week. Like there's just too many deep shots, and they weren't connecting on them. And I just thought they kind of got away from what was working with them. I thought they should have been doing more dink and dunk and more running than what they did last week. That the game was never out of hand. They certainly had their chances at the end to go win it. So it's sustainable because as long as you're not turning the ball over, and they did that last week, then it's sustainable because the Patriots aren't going to score points against you, and the Chargers are stuck in the mud right now. So, the only game that really on the schedule, I don't have it in front of me, but I know Detroit's there in Detroit, and they're capable of scoring a lot. So, as long as you don't let a guy like Nico Collins go crazy, you should be able to keep the score down.
Yeah, Baldy, we know you're the O-line mastermind, and you're very smart about anything O-line related. We had talked last week about this group playing together, being able to build over this 5-game winning streak, really looking like a pretty good offensive line. Were you surprised to see what felt like kind of like a step back from this offensive line against the Texans?
From the very first play. I mean, Will Anderson beat, McGlinchey on the first play and hit the quarterback on the very first play of the game. And I hadn't seen that. And Will Anderson was everywhere. But that's just one guy. Greenard, you pick guy, Malik Collins. Like, they beat him up pretty good up front. But they were holding the ball and taking their shots, and so I don't think it helped them. But at the same time, like, I hadn't seen Will Anderson play like that all year. I mean, he's a good player, but I hadn't seen him play like that, where he was everywhere. And so I do think they took a step back last week, and I was surprised.
Yeah, Baldy, given the Broncos' first half, really on both sides of the ball, offense and defense, really struggling, you see the defense come out in the second half and really clamp down. And the Broncos offense starts to fight back as well. Why did they come up short? It seemed like they had some momentum there in the second half, but you see that mistake there at the end by Russell Wilson. Was there something else that he should have done in that situation? How do you see the end of that game playing out, and what should he have done differently?
I thought, I think the third down interception, you didn't have to make that throw right there. You didn't have to win it. You still had time. You didn't have to win it on that throw. So I thought that was, Russell was not smarter than that, but I thought he would have been a better decision maker than that. It'd been nice if when Jaquan, McMillan got the ball out of C.J. Stroud's hands, it'd be nice if somebody recovered a fumble right there.
Yeah.
The ball's just laying on the ground, 3 guys miss it. Like, that's loose change. Like, you can't miss that. Like that. I saw the reaction of Pay Surtain. Like, he was just to me, that was the ball game right there. That was the chance to go win it right there.
Right.
You missed an opportunity. I mean, you only get so many opportunities to win games like that.
Yeah, it's so true. And now the Broncos have to get back on the winning way this week against the Chargers. And my question to you is, who are these Chargers, Baldy? Because 4 weeks ago, we saw them lose a shootout 41-38 to the Lions. And then just a couple weeks later, just last week, we see them win 6-0. That's wild to see 2 games like that in a single season, let alone in a month span. Like, are the Chargers a good offensive team, a good defensive team? Because their points per game and the amount of points that are being scored in their games has dropped significantly over the past month.
Well, Khalil Mack is having a phenomenal season. I mean, he was the best football player on the field last week. He made a big difference in that game. Outside of Keenan Allen, really nobody scares you on that offense. Mm-hmm. And they move him around, and Kellen Moore's done a good job with them, and he's having a monster year. But look, they probably lean on him way too much. Every third down is going to Keenan. Red zone is going to Keenan. They can't finish. They have a hard time finishing games with a chance to win games. they've had many of opportunities this year. Miami, Tennessee, games that they lost that they had a chance and they just couldn't finish it. Sometimes that's the quarterback. They don't run the ball particularly well, and they don't tackle or cover well. The Patriots just couldn't take advantage of it because they're just that bad at quarterback and receiver. So they couldn't take advantage of it. But, if they'll break down the secondary. It's just a matter of time. And then they don't tackle well at all. And so, they just do weird things dramatically, defensively. They just give up the biggest plays. And so they're not a sound team at all defensively.
Yeah, Baldy, you brought up Khalil Mack, and we all know he's leading the league in sacks right now and having a really good season. He's the bright spot on that defense that I feel like is terrible at best. How do the Broncos neutralize him? How do we stop him from having a Will Anderson type game? He's had multiple games with multiple sacks. How do we neutralize Khalil Mack?
Well, you just, handled Myles Garrett 2 weeks ago. And so he was probably the front runner for the MVP until that game. They got hurt in that game, so that helped. But Khalil right now, it's not just protection, pass protection. I saw him hit Ezekiel Elliott. I don't know how Ezekiel Elliott got it from the hit. He looked like a crash test dummy flying inside a car. He hit him so hard. They move him around, and so they put him in different places. They'll rush him over the guard, and so you can't just say, okay, well, we're going to slide our protection to him because he's not going to tell you where he's lined up until he's lined up. But you have to account for him on any given play, like whether it's sliding Cushenberry or taking the back over there. You better have two sets of eyeballs on him, whatever the down and distance is right now. I mean, that's where it starts right now.
Baldy, if the Broncos win this game, they have a 36% chance of making the playoffs. If they lose, that drops to about 15%. What makes you believe that this Broncos team will make the playoffs, if anything?
I do think they're better. I think they're better coached than the Chargers. I think they have a better formula to win games than do the Chargers. This is a division game. They've already beaten the Chiefs. These division games count as two. And so you could basically knock the Chargers out of the playoffs, which would make the second game of the Chargers maybe easier that you have left. But I just believe they're better coached and they have a better formula. And even last week, I thought they had plenty of chances to win that game. I think they're going to give themselves a better chance to win the game. Just because fundamentally, I think they do better things. I think they tackle better. I think they have a better defense than the Chargers do. So I would say, take Keenan Allen out of the game, and you probably will keep them, under 2 touchdowns.
And speaking of taking Keenan Allen out of a game, I know that week in and week out, you can't always just put your number one corner on a number one receiver. You can't do that for an entire game, week in, week out. But when I look at this game, they're without their number 2 receiver. They're probably going to be without their number 3 receiver in Josh Palmer. Their next leading receiver is a tight end with 200 receiving yards when Keenan Allen's going for 1,100 right now for this game. Can you make it as simple as saying 90% of the game or a high percentage of the game? Pat, you're going to be on Keenan Allen. Take him out of the game.
Absolutely. I know he's making up the plea with Vance to do that. He wants that. He's done that with Devontae Adams. This is a Pay Surtain game. You can, because for many of these games, he's kind of invisible. He's not asked to do a lot. They're going at Fabian or they're going at Jaquan, whatever. But I believe this is a game for Patrick Surtain. You've got a chess piece that can literally – now, Keenan Allen has seen the best corners his whole life. And he's got he's a router. So, it will test Surtain, but he wants that test. I would do that in a heartbeat. That's exactly what I would do in this game.
I love it. I love it, Baldy. Love your insight week in and week out. Make sure to find him on the All NFL show where it's on YouTube on podcast. Baldy, we love your insight. Thanks for joining us.
All right. I'll talk to you next week.
Right on. Sounds great.